Dani Pro Cycling, y aquí tenéis el resumen y análisis de la Copa del Mundo de Ciclocross, segunda carrera en Fayetteville, en Arkansas, de la Copa del Mundo. No hicimos el resumen de la primera carrera de la Copa del Mundo, porque estábamos también envueltos con el ciclismo de ruta, el ciclismo de carretera, pero a partir de este fin de semana y todos los fines de semana hasta enero vamos a tener carreras de ciclocross y quiero hacer los resúmenes. Empezamos con este resumen de la Copa del Mundo, como hemos dicho, ya es la segunda carrera de la Copa del Mundo. Ahí veíamos algunos de los favoritos y al líder de esta Copa del Mundo, Iserbyt, que ganó esa primera carrera y sumó esos primeros 40 puntos, de ahí que lleve ese maillot distintivo blanco como líder de la Copa del Mundo, y otros favoritos como Ronhard, Swift o Van Zorenhout preparados en esa primera línea para tomar la salida, semáforo en verde, y sprintaban para entrar bien colocados en las primeras curvas. Cuando veíamos que Ronhard tenía un problema y se enfadaba un poco con su propia bicicleta, ahora lo comentamos. En esa primera curva, Iserbyt ya estaba en primer lugar, intentando comandar desde el principio el pelotón, y en ese principio, que también tenía un tramo de bajada y el tramo de tablones, que lo habían puesto nuevo en este año, y veíamos a Ronhard corriendo, que tenía que llegar hasta la zona de boxes para cambiar esa cadena o cambiar la bicicleta en este caso, porque se le había roto la cadena en ese sprint inicial. Veíamos esa primera vuelta, como siempre nos sirve para conocer un circuito y también para recordarlo después de años anteriores, haberlo visto y volver a recordar las distintas curvas y los tramos importantes, la zona de escaleras, donde veíamos que Swick quería tener ese primer lugar e incluso intentaba atacar y coger unos metros, pero Iserbyt reaccionaba rápidamente y un grupo muy numeroso en estas primeras vueltas. Como hemos dicho, no había mucho barro en el día de hoy, había llovido en la noche, pero el terreno estaba bastante seco y atacaba Van den Bosch justo en el paso de la primera vuelta por línea de meta, cogía un pequeño hueco e Iserbyt era el encargado de intentar mantener a raya este ataque, pasaba por la zona de los tablones y mantenía esa ventaja que aproximadamente estaba entre los 3-4 segundos. Parecía que incluso le iban a dar caza, pero después de unos segundos veíamos que el propio Iserbyt paraba, no quería llevar a todos los rivales a su rueda, cogía a Van den Bosch unos pequeños metros, aunque nada que pareciera intimidar a los grandes favoritos para la prueba de hoy, y podía llegar después del tramo de las escaleras nuevamente al paso por línea de meta. Pasaba con aproximadamente unos 6 segundos de ventaja con sus rivales. Iserbyt metía una marcha más en este inicio del circuito, se iban acercando a Van den Bosch y el que cogía a la cabeza de este grupo era el propio Swift, que cogían a Van den Bosch. Iserbyt rápidamente se iba a su rueda, cogía unos pocos metros, pero le acababa dando caza e incluso le intentaba arrancar en el tramo justo antes de los toboganes. Veíamos que se iban los dos y también Van Zorenhout, que parecían los tres más fuertes, pero después de un pequeño parón se volvían a reagrupar. Nuevamente Van den Bosch lo intentaba, muy activo en este principio. Llegaban a la línea de meta, todavía un grupo bastante numeroso, hacían los tramos de bajada buscando la posición en cualquier momento, y Van Zorenhout arrancaba y se intentaba ir, cogía unos pocos metros. Swick tenía que intentar ir a por él y su compañero de equipo Iserbyt, que se dedicaba a ir a rueda. Parecía que se iban a ir los tres, pero también se sumaba Nif a este grupo, pero nuevamente paraban en el sexto paso por línea de meta, grupo muy numeroso, y vimos unas vueltas, tanto la vuelta 5 y 6, que fue relativamente tranquila, que no pasó demasiado y que todos se vigilaban. Sí vimos a Swift hacer un cambio de bicicleta, el único entre los favoritos, los que estaban en esos primeros lugares. Iserbyt lo intentó aprovechar, pero sin éxito, estaban todos juntos. Luego una vuelta en la que tampoco vimos demasiados arreones, algunos tímidos intentos, pero volvían a llegar nuevamente Van den Bosch, que lo volvía a probar por tercera ocasión. Veíamos que también intentaba Iserbyt y forcejeaban los dos en el tramo de bajada. Iserbyt al ataque y veíamos que parecía que se iba y solo su compañero de equipo Van Zorenhout se iba junto con él, los dos del Bingoal, pero por detrás Swift, que parecía que se estaba quedando cortado, poco a poco iba llegando y al pasar por línea de meta ya los tenía a pocos segundos y terminaban por contactar, pero se quedaba Van Zorenhout justo antes de que llegara. Se iba Iserbyt hacia adelante, Van Zorenhout a rueda de Swift, y parecía que Iserbyt podía tener la carrera, pero se paraba también, no conseguía el hueco que necesitaba. Obviamente también por el gran trabajo de Swift, los tres que eran más fuertes en la carrera del día de hoy estaban en cabeza, y también Barner, el ciclista estadounidense que estaba dando la sorpresa y estando en cuarto lugar, se estaban parando y parecía que les iban a contactar. Llegábamos a la última vuelta e Iserbyt arrancaba la moto en el principio del circuito y arriesgaba en la bajada. Van Zorenhout estaba sufriendo y Swift parecía que la aguantaba y en el tramo de subida definitivamente se quedaba Van Zonenhout. Entre los dos parecía que iba a estar la carrera en esta última vuelta. Pequeño parón y Swift intentaba probar a Iserbyt en varias ocasiones. También lo probaba en el tramo de escaleras, pero Iserbyt aguantaba muy bien. Volvía a probar a Swift. En esta última parte le aguantaba la rueda y se tomaban un momento de respiro. Todo se iba a decidir en el sprint final. Cogía Swift en cabeza la última curva donde estaba pegando viento frontal. Iserbyt le cogía la rueda, le intentaba superar en los metros finales y finalmente victoria para Eli Iserbyt, llevándose así la segunda prueba de la Copa del Mundo, al igual que hizo con la primera. Van Zonenhout llegaba en tercer lugar y Warner gran posición en cuarto lugar. Totalmente destrozado Iserbyt, que fijaos cómo acabó, y el resto del grupo que se disputaban los distintos puntos, hay puntos en cada posición, ahora los analizamos en ese top 10. Victoria para Eli Iserbyt, 2 de 2 en la Copa del Mundo en este inicio de temporada de ciclocross. Y aquí veíamos las escenas del podio y también cómo le daban ese maillot a Iserbyt, ganador del año pasado. Todos esperando también a que debuten. Veamos si será en diciembre, por ejemplo, Van der Poel, Pidcock y Van Aert, que estas pruebas no les interesan tanto la clasificación general, pero sí hacer algunas pruebas, preparar otras pruebas que les interesan más. Aquí el top 10 y también cómo está la clasificación general después de estas dos pruebas de Copa del Mundo. Muchísimas gracias por estar ahí. Seguiremos haciendo estos resúmenes así.
Conchi on the right hand side for Alpecin-de-Koning, and he's desperately trying to fight for the front and spring things out. And, well, it is more like just an off-road climb, isn't it, rather than anything that is producing surprises. But it's hard enough, isn't it, this? Remember, 1.3 kilometers long, 9.6%. And gaps are
definitely hard enough. Look at the splits happening here already. Mark Hirschi. Is it Conchi?
Conchi left-hand side, yes, in the blue jersey. Italian, who was very, very good on Wednesday in the Giro del Veneto. Alpecin-de-Koning, we talked about teams being good at the start, in the middle of the year, and at the end, like UAE. Alpecin-de-Koning, not necessarily as stage racers, but as stage winners. Now challenging the likes of Quickstep, team that's done this sort of thing for the last 10 years. And look at Conchi go. We've already seen how good they are off-road in these gravel races we've been having. Gianni Vermeer's the world champion, up there again, third place in Serenissima Gravel the other day. And Conchi looking so strong, looking at how to ride, where to ride, and he's finding those sections to try and reduce the risk of a puncture, I guess.
Yeah, getting on that concrete gutter as well on the inside here, so less rolling resistance, a little bit more traction as well. And here comes Formolo. So now two riders from UAE chasing the Italian from Alpecin-de-Koning. Formolo goes past Hirschi, and they're up over the steepest part of this climb, but still drags up a little bit more for a while yet. And Hirschi can't follow the wheel of Formolo.
Just another 10Ks to go. Formolo, remember, on home roads, looking to try and catch up. And Hirschi, remember, he was up with Conchi here.
But you see the difference between the two. Is it really that Conchi is able to stay on that concrete strip, riding really close with his pedal next to the gutter, his body next to that sort of open face of hillside that's been cut in. And Formolo always out onto the gravel, and they're just losing a few meters. Now he's more comfortable on that concrete strip. He's closing the gap.
So we're left with two at the front for now. Remember, there's a bit of descending to come at the top of this. This is a wonderful little addition. 10 seconds, we're being told. Proper off-road racing stuff.
A mini Col de Finestre.
It is. The Giro d'Italia organisers might be looking at this and getting excited. Route to be announced, remember, tomorrow. You can watch it on our platforms. You usually see the racing on Plus. You can tell your friends, tune in to the GCN Racing YouTube channel. We'll be announcing some very special things about where you'll be able to watch all of the Italian racing next year. Give you a little clue, just about everywhere.
We just saw Hirschi there. He's also riding on that concrete strip, but he just rode himself into a big pothole and lost a heap of speed, really checked his speed there. Losing traction, saves it. So look how steep that is through that corner. You see him slipping out left, right and centre, Hirschi, but he's got them in his sights. He's actually coming back to the front of the race.
good to see some late season form for Mark Hirschi, who hasn't quite discovered that top form in his 2 years at UAE that we saw when he was what was somewhere winning those stages in the Tour de France. It looks as though we're heading for a trio, and look at this. Huge tall trees left and right, gravel roads on the estate of this fashion brand. It's a very Italian scene, isn't it, as we come over the top?
It is, but I tell you what, hold your breath if it's going to be that same sort of marbly gravel all the way down, because this is going to be extremely tricky. They're already having trouble with traction on the uphill. Racing down gradients like that on a gravel road, it's really a case of risk-reward.
We've been uphill on the diesel farm, going downhill now as Mark Hirschi wants to make his own move here. Looks to try and find that position, but it's not that simple, is it? 9 seconds on the
into that right-hander.
All the while, you've got to pray there's no mechanical here.
Yeah, and he should be rating his chances to ride away from the other two and get rid of Conchi on the downhill. So Hirschi is a good descender, but it takes one tiny mistake on a descent like this on this road surface, on this gravel surface, to bring yourself undone. He's opening up the gap. He is taking the risks.
Looks as though the surface was just changing through that corner as well. I'll have a different look, but look at this from on high. Spectacular. Now the first chasers, a bit of a group coming behind. Initial chaser looks to be from Lotto Soudal.
Kron,
who rejoined the group, remember, as Vermeersch was away. And that surface change, still gravel there. Slightly different shade of it, more, I think, gravel and concrete rather than the earth we had at the top. Different coloured earth. Now a group of, 7, 8 riders, including the 19-year-old home rider who we've been talking about in that green jersey, Francesco Busato, from the General Store SZGB team. The man who's going to Intermarché next year, and you suspected it might happen. Hirschi has ridden away.
Yeah, he was intent on getting to the front to take control, and then started taking the risk. You saw just a couple of lengths open up back to Conchi, and he's ridden off into the distance.
Formula's job here, I guess, is just to act as an anchor. So off most of the gravel he comes. It was briefly back onto the normal road. Here he goes, away onto the road again. So the gravel's out the way for Mark Hirschi, who has a narrow lead. So he's been up through the diesel farm, down out of it, and now he's on his way to Bassano del Grappa. One more little launch pad to go. That's 500 meters long and at 11.5%. Comes around 5K from the finish, I think.
Well, you'd think at the moment that the winner is going to be decided by Conchi himself. He either gives up the chase on Hirschi and he wins, or he just goes 100% to catch Hirschi and then gets jumped by Formula on that last hill, and then Formula would win. But I think Conchi has found himself in a really difficult position here, and I think he has to almost make the decision to just put everything on everything, see if he can chase down Hirschi and fend off the attack by Davide Formula if and when it comes.
Yet to win his race in his pro career is Nicola Conchi, but he's come close on several occasions. This year he's had a few second and third places at different races in Slovenia, Arctic Race of Norway, top 10 on Wednesday in the Giro del Veneto, chasing a man that was won at the very highest level, Mark Hirschi, a winner of La Flèche Wallonne, a winner in the Tour de France. And that was in his miraculous 2020, wasn't it? Third in the Worlds that year as well. And on the podium in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He has refound winning form this year, the Tour of Tuscany and in Aargau in Switzerland. Starting the year per sempre Alfredo. It has been a comeback of sorts, and Italy's been very important to Mark Hirschi this year, who's still only 24. He's got 10 seconds now on this group being led by Nicola Conchi. And as you were just explaining, Robbie, and as you've been explaining throughout the race, the number's so important for UAE.
Yeah, they've played it to perfection, and they've gone at times where the others wouldn't really have expected them to go. They've been in control. They've got some of the strongest climbers in the race, but they've been content to go on the attack on the flat as well and keep everybody guessing at exactly what their tactic's going to be. But Mark Hirschi, he was completely confident with his descending skills. He just had to get himself to the front in his way past Nicola Conci, and then he could go flat out on the gravel downhill and look over the shoulder tells him that it's not over yet. The gap is extending. It was 8 seconds. Now we're up to 13 with 5.5 kilometres to go. At Hirschi, he will not be resting easy just yet. Down into time trial position, as close as you can get to it these days anyhow, with the UCI regulations that are in force. No more hands draped over the handlebars. But it's a mano a mano. And sitting in third position on the road, Davide Formolo, he may at some stage start to think about the podium position and the heat that's coming from behind. And the chase at the moment, last we saw, being led by Andreas Kron of Lotto Soudal.
5Ks to go then. 3 riders at the front, 17 seconds separating the leader and the chasing 2. This is that final little climb of the race, uncategorized, but where it goes uphill for 500 meters. And here's she climbing in the drops here. One of 3 riders who are set to be, as it stands, the podium. Let's see. If this is to be the podium, none of them will have been born on the day that today's retiree, 51-year-old Davide Rebellin, began his professional career in August 1992. Formolo is now trying to make sure it is a 1-2 on the podium for UAE Emirates. For those of you who missed it earlier on, yes, Rebellin today ends a 30-year career. 12 teams down that time. He's going to finish today 15 years after his 19th and final Grand Tour. 6 years after his last monument, of which he rode 46, winning in Liège in 2004. At that stage, he said he could see himself doing 3 more years. Well, here we are in 2022, 18 years later, and Rebellin retires behind here, as you've got a young Italian who might be about to join his teammate Mark Hirschi, because Davide Formolo could be up here with an opportunity to win at home if Hirschi can't keep the gap to his teammate.
Yeah, well, we said this was a distinct possibility that Formolo would use up Conci and go on the attack, and Conci had no answer. As soon as Formolo went, Conci looked over his shoulder to say, well, who else is coming? Because third's about as good as I can do today against UAE, who've had everything under control all day long. Now Formolo is trying to ride his way across to Mark Hirschi. 7 seconds the gap. At Hirschi, he is holding a really good rhythm, very strong up that climb. A full attack by Formolo up there. You'd think this would stay the order in, unless Hirschi gets the idea that Formolo's on his own and they can ride him with the 2 of them.
Formolo has him in sight as he looks behind. I mentioned Davide Rebellin, and a lot of you will be tuning in a little later today. There's been a lot of other cycling to watch, certainly over on the track. And it was at the start of this race that we had that image in the neutral zone of the man they call Rocha here from this region. Formolo riding out the neutral zone with Rebellin, having that long conversation. Rebellin a month older than Jens Vogt and Lance Armstrong, the man who won the Ardennes Triple, but 18 years ago in 2004. And a reminder that 4/5 of this peloton weren't even born when Rebellin won his first pro race in 1992. Rhythm is a Dancer was #1 in the UK when he turned pro, and it was a year before the first internet browser, I should say, was invented, Mosaic. Rebellin has seen so many changes down years, perhaps more than any other rider in the history of the sport. And today, he's going to be part of a race that is going to see 3 young riders taking it to the front. Here is Nicola Conti, who's at 30 seconds now. 23 seconds further up the road is Davide Formolo. And a further 7 seconds up the road from this man is the lone leader, Mark Hirschi. 3 kilometres to go for the Swiss. It looks like being a 1-2, unless there is some sort of dramatic change here, Robbie.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting a dramatic change unless someone has a very untimely mechanical. Mark Hirschi, well, obviously not going to wait for Davide Formolo. Just 7 seconds between them, and look over the shoulder, but no easing off on the pedals for the Swiss. He wants to get the win, and as you mentioned before, Rob, off that phenomenal season a couple of years ago when he was riding with Sunweb, wins in the Tour de France, multiple stage wins, had a really tough time last year. He had an injury, he was out with illness. He's finding his form again. It'd be good to see him get back to the form that he showed when he was with the Sunweb team a couple of years ago. But at the moment, Formolo, he's the local man. He'd love to get back up to his teammate and say, hey, listen, what do you think about me winning in the area that I live in?
9 seconds, though, now. It's drifting again. This is a really fascinating internal battle. One thing that looks to be sure now is that it's not just going to be Jumbo-Visma who are the top dogs in terms of wins. We know that down the years, it's certainly for the last decade, also been Quick Step Alpha Vinyl, hasn't it? They have 47 wins. Of course, they're no longer racing here. Jumbo-Visma have 48 wins. They've ended their season. The team at the front with the 1 and 2 at the minute have 47. Jumbo-Visma are about to be joined right at the top of the tree. We're heading into the very beautiful and scenic Bassano del Grappa. And it's Mark Hirschi who is just over a kilometre away now from taking victory. In fact, 1K to go for the man who is on his way to win number 4 for the season. And this now should be his. Formolo just behind. A man who's worked so hard for his team. In fact, he's become more of a worker, hasn't he, in recent times. In a while since he was winning big races himself. 2 years since his last win in the Dauphiné. When they come, they're generally big ones. As it's just about held up right there by Hirschi, who's just a few hundred meters from the line now. It's going to come down to this scenic old bridge. And it's one of the most stunning finishes in professional cycling. Through that final corner. Thankfully, we haven't got a big bunch in here because that would be a scary prospect, I think.
Well, he's not holding anything back, is he? I mean, it's been clinical by UAE, but Hirschi, he's gone with them on the climbs, but he's opened the gap up by taking the risks and having the skills on the technical sections of the course. He's going to grab the win.
Mark Hirschi then with one final uphill to the line. 4.5 hours of racing. They've been on 2 different circuits on all sorts of surfaces in one of the biggest and most important cycling regions in the world. It has been a spectacular way to end 2022. And right back on the top of things, just as the season ends, is Mark Hirschi as UAE equal the top number of wins this year. Jumbo-Visma have company. And it's also a 1-2 for UAE Emirates as Formolo finishes second.
Get yourself ready, get yourself comfortable, and indeed get yourself cleanly out of the gate. Sounds simple. It's not, Joe.
No, it's these guys, of course, make it look easy when it goes right. Still on a very big gear here. Like I say, you want to accelerate up speed as efficiently as possible. Just the countdown for the final few seconds now. Back in the saddle.
More smoothly away this time by. Well, Philip Ogana is a man who's used to setting records. I'm not sure after his effort earlier on today whether, quite frankly, he needs to push for it. But you never know if he's in good form. It's Milan that's the smoother starter here. By an enormous margin. What's going on? Philip Ogana is 1.298 down at the moment. He'll be aware of this, 1.4.
Worth pointing out, his opening kilo this morning was the 14th fastest.
Oh.
That's correct. I believe he was the fastest qualifier. So he does ride this way. He does like to negative split. He does like to accelerate through the ride if he can. So yeah, 1.4 seconds down on his teammate currently, who is of course putting up a good fight. You know, it's a fight for a rainbow jersey here. You're not going to let reputations get in the way of that.
Yes, indeed. How far are we? It's kind of a holding station at the moment, isn't it? But when will Ghana go? That's the big question.
Yeah, I'm surprised how big this gap is.
Me too, actually. I'm sure there's no gifts here, but let's have a look. 1.3.
He's bringing it back gradually.
Wow, we're on a kilo. 10th of a second per half lap. Allez, people.
So Ghana has started quicker than his qualifying ride this morning by 0.2. But Milan has gone more than a second quicker than his first kilo.
Here we are, still green with Milan. As you can see, what's the next check? Here we go. And this is where Ghana starts to get up to rails. absolute phenomena. 0.8, he's finding a 10th per half circulation here. Let's see if he gets into the 7s this time by, possibly. Yes, he does. Oh my goodness, that was a big chunk. And here it goes. The green advantage of Milan is starting to narrow, and Ghana looks so smooth. The way we're looking at Milan at the moment, who is leading 0.479. Here is Ghana with the dark helmet and indeed the beard. 0.3, and he's going to be on level terms just beyond now the halfway marker of this run. 187. I think we know what's coming here, Joe.
It's a 205.4 2K for Ghana, 205.0 for Milan, both up on their times from this morning.
Well, this is wonderful to have a teammate spurring you on as well, essentially pacing you, I guess you might say, albeit almost exactly mirrored across the track. That's why the times are so narrow. Here we go.
It's gone green for Ghana for the
It
first
has. Takes the clock, Joe, and here we go.
Yeah, here we go. It's less than 6 laps to go now. He's just edging out some more time. He is up on his time from qualifying, and just to remind ourselves, that was very close to the world record when he rode this morning, of 4 minutes, 0.693. He was up on that time at the 2K mark. Has he got the legs to keep increasing this pace? He's up to nearly 5/10 lead over his teammate now as we come round for the time check at 3 kilometres.
And more significantly, we could actually be heading for a world record here, despite the fact we are not at altitude, but we're dealing with Filippo Ganna, for goodness sake. No disrespect to Milan, but just look at this. Target time for a world record is a 3:59.930, and I wouldn't put it past him here, Joe. This is amazing.
It is. He is up on his time from this morning, which was not far from world record pace. He's got just over 2 laps to go. He needs to keep accelerating through this and see if he can break that 4-minute barrier at sea level.
Here we go then. Less than 500 meters to go, as you can see. It's a 3:38.486. It's going to be very, very close. Let's see, here's the bell. He's got 250 meters to do something absolutely spectacular here. He's going to be a world champion, we know that, but is he going to smash the world record? This is something very, very special you're witnessing here. Let's see what the clock's doing. Is he going to drift over 4 minutes? Oh, world record! It doesn't matter how high you go, you cannot beat this man, Filippo Ganna. He holds the world hour record. He's in spectacular form. And at 3:59.6, he now, at any altitude, holds the fastest time. That is absolutely remarkable. Remember this moment. And how many times have we said that about this man?
I cannot believe what I have just...
Forza Elia! Gli dedica anche la grafica, la regia internazionale, bronzo nell'Omnium olimpico, bronzo anche ai mondiali in questo 2021 per Elia Viviani, che è stato campione europeo nella eliminazione. Dimentichiamocela in fretta, e l'augurio è che se la sia dimenticata anche lui, la prova dell'eliminazione di ieri all'interno dell'Omnium, perché ieri davvero ha commesso molto poco. Una Viviani che invece poi nella corsa a punti ha dimostrato di avere una gran bella condizione, perché ha fatto una rimonta strepitosa, e lì però nell'Omnium
arrivando terzo
possiamo dire che ha
nell'eliminazione,
sbagliato. Lui è il primo a saperlo, è ovvio.
Sì, ha interpretato proprio questa disciplina che lo vedrà adesso giocarsi la medaglia in una prova secca, proprio inserita nell'Omnium. Ha preso qualche rischio di troppo, era all'interno ed è stato eliminato non per mancanza di gambe, ma per mancanza della posizione ideale in quel momento, e si comincia già con le spallate.
Sì, proprio con Elia Viviani che l'ha messa sul piano della cattiveria con il belga, e si tratta di Jules Esters.
Però si parlava degli olandesi che sono in pista da tantissimi anni. Pensa che Elia Viviani vinceva l'europeo dalla corsa a punti nel 2012.
Sì. Regolamento semplice, spettacolare. Colpo di pistola, parte la gara, un giro sì, primo giro di lancio, e poi si comincia con le eliminazioni. L'ultimo del gruppo viene eliminato, come è successo adesso per lo svizzero. Un giro sì, un giro no, eliminazione, e tocca a Claudio Imhoff. Beh, anche questa sì che è una sorpresa, perché Imhoff
un'eliminazione pesante. Attenzione anche a Grondin, il francese, anche lui molto bravo in questa specialità.
Chiaramente cambia adesso il discorso anche da un punto di vista tattico rispetto all'eliminazione di ieri, terza delle quattro prove dell'Omnium, stavo dicendo, fuori adesso l'austriaco Schmid-Bauer, perché quell'eliminazione la devi anche gestire in base al rendimento di tutto l'Omnium. Pensiamo per esempio a quello che ha fatto ieri Ethan Hayter, che si è quasi rialzato quando erano rimasti in 4 corridori in gara.
Foratura per Grondin,
mi sa anche a me, proprio per Grondin.
Anteriore addirittura, quindi pericolosissimo. Guarda come sbanda.
Scuote la testa il francese. Stavamo dicendo appunto della eliminazione all'interno dell'Omnium, la devi gestire in un certo modo. Questa è gara secca e dunque è chiaro che insomma adesso c'è un altro tipo di atteggiamento. Per esempio Elia Viviani deve dare tutto, questa è l'ultima prova, dunque non c'è da gestire pensando alla corsa a punti
e non da risparmiarsi, ovviamente. Intanto è neutralizzata
gara neutralizzata per permettere problema meccanico, si è trattato di problema meccanico, dunque questo dice il regolamento, per permettere al corridore che ne è rimasto vittima di sistemare le cose, in questo caso cambiare bici e riprendere il proprio posto in gruppo.
Quindi c'è solo affanno per cercare di mantenere le posizioni di testa, però erano partiti velocissimi. Adesso proprio per la foratura di Grondin hanno un po' recuperato in gruppo e adesso si riaccelera.
Allora vediamo Grondin, eccolo là alla balaustra, scende giù per riprendere la propria posizione in gruppo. Il girogenetista era infatti con la bandiera gialla per segnalare la neutralizzazione della gara. Nel frattempo ha fatto segno con la mano, ancora un giro, ora al passaggio ripartirà la prova, infatti nuovo colpo di pistola, nuovo giro tra virgolette di lancio, al prossimo passaggio campanelle e poi eliminazione.
Bello, bello. Suono campana e si riprende con l'eliminazione al prossimo giro con Elia Viviani in quinta posizione.
Al proprio esterno ha il francese Donovan Grondin. Attenzione adesso al messicano, sembra quello più a rischio, Muniz Vasquez. Invece l'argentino.
Sì.
È l'argentino Lesica, Facundo Lesica, che viene eliminato. Vedete quella scatolina arancione che i corridori hanno attaccata sul manubrio? Quando si illumina un display, si illumina per segnalare al corridore appunto l'avvenuta eliminazione.
Non di immenso in questo caso. Attenzione alle retrovie che sbandate, con Elia Viviani che non vuole correre rischi, sempre lì attorno alla terza, quarta posizione.
Fuori, questa volta sì, tocca a lui. José Muniz Vasquez,
che deve essere scivolato perché ha tutta la parte destra strappata del suo body all'inizio di questa eliminazione.
Cerchiamo Elia, è là davanti, terza, quarta posizione per il nostro azzurro. Attenzione adesso a Trinidad e Tobago e ad Algeria, sembra una volata tra loro due e invece no, lo sai che
Giappone.
Tocca al giapponese, si sono salvati dunque fuori invece il Giappone con Eia Hashimoto.
Sì, quelle le posizioni più basse verso la corda della pista sono le posizioni più a rischio, con Elia Viviani adesso in prima posizione.
Sta durando una gran fatica, o meglio sta spendendo tantissimo Achille Campbell, stando alto anche per avere la destra libera, ma è proprio lui, Trinidad e Tobago, che adesso viene eliminato.
Aveva già rischiato 2 eliminazioni fa. Sempre velocissimi comunque.
6 gli uomini che già hanno lasciato il gruppo. Adesso in ultima posizione c'è il colombiano, che però è in una buona posizione
al tedesco
per cercare di andare a fare lo sprint.
Attenzione al tedesco.
Mi sa che hai visto bene, Marco. Infatti è proprio lui che adesso viene eliminato, il tedesco. Si tratta di Theo Reinhardt, tra l'altro uomo esperto, molto esperto.
Altro uomo che poteva rivelarsi molto pericoloso.
2 volte campione del mondo.
Guarda Grondin che fatica che deve fare.
In coppia con Roger Kluge. Fuori Theo Reinhardt per la Germania.
Si sono toccati.
E chi va a casa? Probabilmente il bielorusso, ovvero Evgeny Karaliok. Anche questa altra bella sorpresa, nome importantissimo, Evgeny Karaliok. Questa è la prima volta, è il debutto assoluto della eliminazione nel programma mondiale, inserita alle Olimpiadi, ma non come prova a sé, come prova secca, bensì nel programma dell'Omnium. Fa parte invece regolarmente del programma dei campionati europei, ma non di quelli mondiali. Ora adesso il colombiano, e si tratta di Jordan Parra.
Siamo già alla prossima eliminazione con Elia Viviani, sempre lì attorno alla seconda, terza posizione, un po' scoperto e a volte un po' a ruota, quindi sta spendendo, mi sento di dire, anche il giusto. In una fase delicatissima, adesso bisogna restare concentrati.
A rischio l'ucraino, che infatti non ci prova neanche ad opporsi, e viene eliminato Roman Gladic. Un gran mondiale per Roman Gladic, che ieri addirittura non aveva neanche centrato la qualificazione mattutina per il torneo dell'Omnium.
Ma che sbandata. Questo è il precedente sprint dove si sono toccati. Nuova eliminazione con Elia Viviani in terza posizione, ma con lo spazio per poter passare.
Sì, decisamente molto coperto Elia, e dunque fuori adesso il danese, e si tratta di Tobias Hansen, altro uomo del quartetto, uno dei nuovi innesti nel quartetto danese, Tobias Hansen. L'ultimo oro per Elia Viviani in una manifestazione internazionale era arrivato proprio nell'eliminazione agli europei del 2019. Fuori adesso il corridore della Repubblica Ceca, e si tratta di Jan Vones.
Sono ancora in tanti, ma va via via assottigliandosi il gruppo.
Attenzione adesso all'algerino,
deve farsi
alla
chiudere.
corda, dunque nella posizione peggiore. Bisogna sempre cercare di avere uno spazio sulla destra dove provare ad infilarsi. A parte, mi sembra che sia comunque arrivato l'algerino, infatti perde già adesso il contatto, e fuori lui. Si tratta di Yassin Shalel.
Sì, ha finito le energie, assolutamente. Siamo
rimasti in 9.
Sì. Attenzione Elia.
Occhio Elia a questa posizione.
Sì.
Attenzione Elia a questa posizione. Bravo comunque, perché adesso se ne è lasciati diversi alle spalle, però attenzione perché è sempre pericolosissimo stare via alla corda. Ora è tranquillo. Sì,
No, è tranquillissimo.
No, sto guardando Spagna o Israele?
Anche Grondin fa di quei peli.
L'israeliano Rotem Tene, che viene eliminato. Ruota posteriore, questione di 2 centimetri, infatti, nello sprint con lo spagnolo.
Attenzione, ultimo.
Occhio adesso ad Elia Viviani, bravo ad uscire dalla scia dell'americano. Vai Elia, vai Elia, vai Elia!
Sì, secondo me si è salvato.
Con l'americano Hoover, sì, fuori Hoover. Fuori Gavin Hoover, ma anche qua ha corso un rischio enorme Elia Viviani. Fuori Gavin Hoover, eccolo il photo finish, è più netta di quello che sembrava, è quasi una ruota intera. Ora siamo in coda con Elia
sta spendendo tantissimo, ancora deve fare.
Fuori lo spagnolo Martorell. E dunque adesso sono rimasti in 6. C'è anche Vernon per la Gran Bretagna con Grondin, occhio al portoghese Yuri Leitao.
Sì, che ha una condizione pazzesca in questo campionato del
Anche
mondo.
Rostozev per la Russia, fuori Vernon. Fuori il britannico Vernon, Ethan Vernon. Anche lui, uomo del quartetto dell'inseguimento squadre. 5 adesso.
Si resta in 5, sì, ecco il momento. Grondin con Elia Viviani che prende la testa.
Ed ecco anche Leitao ora in ultima posizione, è il belga Jules Esters. Elia è davanti, sta spendendo tanto ma adesso non può fare diversamente. Bravo Elia, fuori il belga Jules Esters. Rimangono dunque Rostozev per la Russia, lui che è il campione europeo in carica, titolo appena conquistato a Grenchen in Svizzera, poi Elia Viviani con Leitao e il francese per il Portogallo e il francese Grondin. Mette sul ritmo Leitao, vediamo Grondin, attenzione a questa volata, Grondin in ultima posizione, Elia si salva, sì. E come se si salva, fuori Grondin.
È medaglia sicura.
Sicuramente una medaglia per Elia Viviani, il nostro capitano, uno splendido, un enorme Elia Viviani che ancora una volta va a medaglia argento perché è saltato anche Rostovtsev. Dunque attenzione, non fatevi ingannare Leitao con Viviani perché Rostovtsev, eccolo inquadrato, teoricamente è ancora in gara, verrà ufficialmente eliminato a questo.
¿Estás buscando ofertas en alquiler de autos? Con Kayak puedes comparar precios de cientos de sitios web de alquiler.
Muy buenas, ¿qué pasa? Bienvenidos al canal Dani Pro Cycling y aquí tenéis el vídeo del Top 10 de mejores ataques de 2020. El vídeo está editado por José Cycling y ya hicimos un vídeo sobre los mejores ataques de 2020 antes de la pandemia y ahora hemos querido hacer este vídeo después del confinamiento, los mejores ataques que hemos vivido en este final de temporada. Y en la posición número 10 ponemos a Jakob Fuglsang en Il Lombardía, gran ataque sabiendo sufrir en el momento adecuado y consiguiendo esta gran victoria y un monumento como es Il Lombardía. En el número 9 ponemos a Tadej Pogačar, ataque en la